old lady presented with bilateral breast lump for 3 months. There was no nipple discharge or exudate lump, and the comorbid conditions of that lady, like hypertension, diabetes mellitus. Previously it was uncontrolled, but now the hemoglobin A1C is 1.1%. Recent history of stroke in January 2020, but now patient can move independently with some help. She is also suffering from chronic kidney disease, and the creatinine is 4.7 milligram recently. Dementia, hypothyroidism on thyroxine. So on examination, her right breast revealed a 20 into 20 millimeter lump at upper inner quadrant, irregular margin. Surface was smooth, firm in consistency, not fixed with underlying muscle. Overlying skin is free, and there was nothing in the right axilla, no lymphadenopathy. And in left breast, 13 to 15 millimeter lump at upper and outer quadrant, irregular margin. Surface was smooth, firm in consistency, not fixed with the underlying muscle, and overlying skin was free. And also there is no lymphadenopathy in the left axilla. So some diagnostic workup was done. At first, the ultrasonogram of the both breast and axilla, and it was revealed highly suspicious malignant lesion, 26.4 into 18.6 millimeter at right breast 1 o'clock position, and another 29.5 and into 9.7 millimeter low suspicious malignant lesion at left breast 2 o'clock position with bilateral normal axillary lymph node. So mammogram was also done for both breast, and right breast a single lump 23 to 18 millimeter upper inner quadrant and ill-defined oval, and left breast single 26 into 16 millimeter lump upper and outer quadrant oval and lobulated isoveins. Both breasts were symmetrical, no skin thickening, no nipple discharge, no nipple change, and right axilla multiple lymph nodes with normal fatty hilum, and in left axilla single node with normal fatty hilum. So core biopsy was done from the right breast lesion, showed infiltrating ductal carcinoma, not otherwise specified. It was grade 2 disease, and ER negative, HER2 positive, and Ki67 40%. So core biopsy from the left breast lesion site suggestive of ductal carcinoma. So slide and block review was done from the left breast lesion, and it was ductal hyperplasia with atypia. Repeat core biopsy was done from the left breast lesion, showed papillary neoplasm of breast with an advice of excision biopsy. So now the staging workup was done, and staging CT scan, it was there was no lung metastasis found, and staging MRI was been done because we cannot give contrast due to the chronic kidney disease and creatinine was high. So there was no focal lesion in the liver, no lymphadenopathy or ascites. So my question to the panels: so how should we proceed with 5 years old with these huge comorbidities? So how should we proceed for, and the hormone receptor status was negative. So how should we proceed for these things? Thank you.
This is a lady of 75 years old woman, but a lot of comorbid disease she had. She had hypertension, diabetes, and recently she recovered from a stroke with hypothyroid and kidney disease. So first of all, I would like to do a MDT. MDT, why MDT? MDT for counseling with the patient's attendant and patient herself. What to do and what will happen during the consequences of the treatment policy. In context to surgical intervention, if the MDT agreed, then my proposal is breast conserving surgery and sentinel lymph node biopsy with the facility of frozen section on the right side. And simultaneously, as because there is a confusing lesion in the left side, that has to be excised with the help of frozen section. Whether it is a bilateral malignancy or not, we do not know. But this could be the option. Otherwise, recently neoadjuvant trastuzumab along with the chemotherapy is given, but how much it is feasible or acceptable, that is another issue. If her comorbid disease is not like that, in that case, we should start neoadjuvant. But with considering all these comorbid disease, I think if anesthesia give the fitness for surgical intervention, in that case, breast conserving surgery along with sentinel lymph node biopsy is to be done first. Otherwise, neoadjuvant chemotherapy. These are the options.
It was BRCA positive, so bilateral mastectomy was the appropriate treatment at the very beginning. Even the remaining breast is to be excised, and then the therapy going on may be continued, and the son to be kept under supervisions, as because there is family history of BRCA positivity. That is comment regarding first case. And regarding the second case, ideal treatment is that in case of neoadjuvant chemotherapy for high risk group, that is HER2 overexpressed or TNBC, neoadjuvant chemotherapy after 2 centimeter or more is indicated. But in that case, it's not possible due to so many comorbidities. So supportive treatment from nephrologist and the endocrinologist is to be continued. If favorable result comes, that is these reversed within a very short period of time, then neoadjuvant chemotherapy. Otherwise, if anesthetist agrees, then surgery and then further therapy, especially at least HER2 therapy or even some oral drugs that may be considered in adjuvant setting after definitive therapy. That should be the advice for the patient.
My opinion about the right breast lesion, the left breast lesion, which showed papillary neoplasm. I actually do not think that frozen section is going, because a papillary neoplasm might have some focus of DCIS, which cannot be determined by frozen section alone. It should be excised first, having a free margin, about at least 1 centimeter free margin. The total lesion should be excised first and examined thoroughly for any DCIS, or whether it is a papillary carcinoma, encysted papillary carcinoma, or whatever. And then the decision should be made. And before going into any treatment, I think it should be evaluated first, the left breast also. That is my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I actually do agree with Dr. Nahar regarding further evaluation to make sure it's not an invasive lesion, especially given the size. I agree with everything that was just said. So here we have an expertise within our Center for Geriatric Oncology to help us make those kinds of decisions. And it really doesn't come down to age, but it's everything else that's being talked about here by Dr. Hussain and by Dr. Reza, I think it was. It's all about frailty. And frailty is a very big marker that someone's not going to do well with breast cancer therapy, especially if you're trying to cure her. We're not going to help if she has a prolonged postoperative course, or if the chemotherapy, even with the best tailored treatments, puts her, takes away her quality of life. And it's always a very, very hard decision to make. However, as stated, I think it's very important we approach this patient not with the lens that she's 75 and we can't do anything. And I think that's where the multidisciplinary team can actually help. I would actually, if Dr. Hussain's team was able, I would almost prefer that she undergo surgery because she's node negative. At least right now on the right breast, and her breast cancer is at 2 centimeters, a little bit bigger on the right by ultrasound. But, I think that could help us really tailor what we could do and recommend. Now, the question is, what we are going to do in terms of HER2-based therapy. Here, there's so many different choices one could do. And exactly as stated before, one could go just Taxol with trastuzumab. One could go all the way out to TCPH, which I don't think I do in this person, but it's all going to depend on her other medical issues. And the question I always have for my internal medicine colleagues is, what's her life expectancy based on her comorbidities? And if that's going to be 12 months, right, it doesn't make sense to put her on this treatment that could potentially give her 3 years if her comorbidities predict she won't be alive in a year. So I think it's a real big fine balance to the approach, and a multidisciplinary team can really help.
Yeah, the second case is a frail lady having a lot of comorbidities like hypertension, also CKD, diabetes, and stroke. So I think, as you know, the first breast, the right breast has a malignant wound especially, and the left breast is inconclusive because it shows a congenital hyperplasias. So if the MDT agrees for, I think we can think about the surgical procedures, and then after surgical procedure, the histopathology dictate the same thing, like it's a ER negative, PR negative and HER2 positive. In that case, we can think whether the patient can tolerate the HER2-directed therapy at the age of 75 years with a comorbidity like CKDs, hypertension, diabetes, and a stroke. So we'll have to offer the patients after surgery. I think surgery will be the ideal one at these stages if the performance status permits and the MTT agrees and the patients. Patient agree with the surgical procedures, I think.
About the first case, everybody was concerned about the offspring, the siblings, for their possibility of having breast cancer because the lady was BRCA1 positive. What about the lady herself? Why don't you consider the possibility of having ovarian cancer in this lady? She had thrice breast cancer, once in one side, the second time in the other side, and third time in the breast conserved side. And she is BRCA1 positive. So she has a high risk of having ovarian cancer. Does ovarian suppression with ALH-RH analog minimizes the risk of ovarian cancer? No. So I will rather prefer ovarian ablation instead of putting her on any ALH-RH analog. I want to have a comment on this by Dr. Dijon. Number one, it is about the first case. Second case, this 75 years old frail lady having so many comorbidities, she is very high risk case for surgery of any minimal type of surgery. So surgery is a local kind of treatment. If we can replace this local treatment instead of surgery by radiotherapy, what is your opinion about that? This is a local treatment. She needs a local treatment for the confirmed breast cancer. The other side, you can go for a rebiopsy, core biopsy, and confirm if that is also a malignant lesion. Then you can just, because the axillary nodes are not having no sign of metastasis, so only to breast lesions. This can be radiated instead of putting the patient under surgeon's knife. What is your opinion, Dijon?
Yeah, I think both of them are very good points. In terms of the first case, given her BRCA status, yes, she is absolutely at risk for ovarian cancer. And clearly your points about ovarian function suppression versus ovarian ablation versus oophorectomy are all exceptionally valid. I think my approach would be to treat the problem at present. The time to do the oophorectomy would not be with this new diagnosis in 2020. It would have been, yet at some point between her second diagnosis and this next one, when you knew she was cancer-free at least 3 years later. It's always a very delicate balance to either prevent a cancer from happening, but also to provide effective therapy of the cancer she already has. And I think this is the same conversations I think all of us have in our MDTs regarding prophylactic contralateral mastectomy. When we know that there's a breast cancer on one side, should we commit her to having both breasts off? My advice has always been, consider this problem separately. We have cancer. We need to treat this cancer. Taking off her breast on the other side is not effective therapy for the treatment of the known cancer now. Well, the same thing could be applied here, but I do think a prophylactic oophorectomy is in this woman's future and it should be recommended. Regarding the second case, we are doing some studies regarding cryoablation of breast tumors, whether, benign breast tumors. We're going into very, very good prognostic, low grade, exceptionally hormone positive breast cancers with cryoablation. And there's a study ongoing in the US about it. It's still not considered equivalent to surgery. So if the intention is to render her disease free and reduce risk as much as possible so that she doesn't have metastatic disease in the next 3-5 years, granted she's at the age of 75, I think surgery is still the recommended therapy. Now, if her frailty makes surgery not an option now, in which case it's probably not going to be an option 6 months from now, although you could, as was suggested, you could maximize for medical state. But if surgery is not an option and medical therapy is not an option, that's when we start looking at things that are outside of the box to achieve local control, in which case I think radiation warrants conversation.
Arman have a question to ask. Arman, any question?
But actually, my question for the surgeon, as because with these comorbidities, it is difficult to make the patient fit for anesthesia, maybe. So, is there any possibility or is there any chance to operate the patient under guidance of local anesthesia? I just want to know from the surgeons.
Yes. In response to your question, I would like to answer. And there are few cases with such a type of comorbidities. Still, the competent anesthetist, without general anesthesia, giving a spinal anesthesia in the cervical region. And I did few cases with cervical anesthesia without local anesthesia and with uneventful recovery. So surgery can be done with the help of competent anesthesias with cervical block and without any local infiltration. This is possible, and I did few cases with such a type of complication. Thank you.